when a video game gets a sequel, it's a chance for the developers to build on the foundations that they introduced in the original. And while some video games like to keep their characters consistent, some video games have indeed stretched things to such an extent that their protagonists become unrecognizable by the end of things. So let's take a look at them today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game sequels that changed the way that you viewed characters. Number 10. DMC Devil May Cry. DANTE. DANTE from Devil May Cry has always been fairly brash and cocky, and that's a bit of an understatement. During each of his appearances in the main series of games, as well as his stylish anime debut, Dante exudes a cool confidence, and in many ways, his sarcastic and stylish attitude is what drew many players to the game. After all, Devil May Cry was about rewarding players for stylish gameplay, and Dante was a perfect fit. However, when DMC Devil May Cry, a game so notorious they named it twice, came around, developers Ninja Theory went with a slightly different approach. As newcomers to the franchise, Ninja Theory had not worked on the prior games and therefore treated DMC as a hardcore reboot. Featuring a younger version of Dante, the character's abrasiveness was turned up to 11 and became much more arrogant in the process. And it was this portrayal of the previously beloved character that was enough to turn some die-hard fans off the game entirely. Woof. Number 9. Gears of War Judgment. Baird. In contrast to Dante, Baird's prequel outing actually made his character much more endearing. During the original Gears of War trilogy, Baird was an incessant thorn in protagonist Marcus Phoenix's side, constantly complaining about either the situation or Marcus's decisions. And the worst part though was that Baird was extremely intelligent, and boy did he know it. With a condescending quick wit, Baird always had a bleak outlook on any given situation. But as you can imagine, this didn't make him all too likable. Luckily for him, though, he had his longtime friend Augustus Cole standing up for him, and making us realise that maybe Baird isn't all that bad. Then Gears of War Judgment arrived, and despite being regarded negatively as a whole, shed some much needed light on his character. Baird's prior cynicism becomes actually justified as he falls victim to a corrupt and uncaring government system that punishes heroes and damns its own people. Going back and replaying the original Gears game after this sheds some new light on him and explains why he's so negative to the would-be hero Marcus. Nice work. Number 8. Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel. ELLIOT, SALEM. Army of Two has always been a celebration of the classic couch co-op era of gaming. It required you to work together as a team to get through its action-packed campaigns, and as the name suggests, players take control of one of two soldiers, Salem or Rios. And the two start off reluctantly working together before forming a strong bond over the course of 2 games. Their relationship and character interactions were a highlight of the series, which was full of witty banter that made a refreshing break from the utter carnage around them. And by the end of the second game, the two are near inseparable. But in the third game, however, Salem is presumed dead after a botched mission between Rios and 2 new operatives. Despite the circumstances behind his supposed death being totally out of anyone's control, Salem decides to turn against the group and serves as the game's big bad. This decision leaves a pretty sour taste when replaying the prior games, as you know what will become of this fan favourite. Number 7. God of War 2018. KRATOS. Poor old Kratos, he can't seem to catch a break in any of these games. In the initial God of War trilogy, Kratos was a deadly Spartan warrior who rose through the ranks in the service of Ares. He was later tricked into murdering his own wife and daughter by the gods that he served, and thus became the ghost of Sparta. Kratos would then proceed to carve a bloody path through the entirety of the Greek pantheon, in turn becoming a god himself. Consumed by rage and vengeance, Kratos was a near unstoppable force of pure anger. But thanks to the 2018 God of War, fans got to see a much more different side to their favourite god killer. Here, Kratos seems much wiser and much more reluctant towards using violence as he attempts to raise his son following the loss of his second wife. This new approach to the character demonstrates a different outlook on grief, and that Kratos is now much more than a one-dimensional rage monster. Number 6. Destiny 2. ULDREN Sov. If somebody would have told me that ULDREN would eventually become a fan favourite, I would have called them bloody crazy. ULDREN was a loyal brother and servant to his sister Queen Mara, often being mistrusting of the player character but largely being unimportant to the story. That was until the second game, following his sister's presumed death at the end of the first. ULDREN played a much bigger role, working with the main cast in an attempt to track down Mara. Fast forward to the events of the Forsaken DLC, which started with ULDREN murdering fan favourite and hunter leader Cayde 6. this. Now the most hated man in Destiny history, players the world over began hunting this guy down. And fans' views on this character were changed once more as he was resurrected as the Crow with no knowledge of his past. The player base is gradually warming up to the tortured individual, with many jokingly cursing Bungie for playing with their emotions all the way. Number 5. Borderlands the pre-sequel, Handsome Jack. Since Handsome Jack's first appearance in Borderlands 2, he has become the face of the franchise and still remains one of gaming's top all-time villains. Throughout the course of this game, Jack regularly taunts the player with witty banter, often referring to the Vault Hunter as mere bandits. And one of the reasons that Jack fights so hard against the Vault Hunters is because in his deranged mind, he's actually the hero and is cleansing the world of bandits. But Jack was not always so obsessed with murder. Well, not as much. The follow-up game, titled the pre-sequel, saw Jack working with the player and is slightly more relatable here. But by the end of the pre-sequel, Jack has become the twisted villain that we know and love to hate. And the Telltale games from the Borderlands series also shines a different light on this character, having him appear as a hologram. Here he's presented as much more vulnerable, given that he has no physical form, but ultimately this proves to be yet another of one of his evil schemes. Still though, it was weird at one point to say, maybe he's not a bad guy at all, and then you go, yes, no, he actually is when you play Borderlands 2. Number 4, Red Dead Redemption 2, John Marston. Now, John Marston has never been the brightest bulb, but Red Dead Redemption 2 took it a step too far for many. In the first game, John is presented as a family man that returned to his life of crime in order to track down his old gang boss and return to his family safe and sound. His entire motivation for hunting and killing his old family was to get back to his current one. Red Dead Redemption 2, however, showed fans that this wasn't always the case, with John often running off on his own, abandoning Abigail and his young son Jack. Not only was John on the verge of constantly fleeing from his responsibilities, but he also made several decisions that put them in direct harm's way. And during the epilogue, we find out that John started using the name of a federal agent that had been hunting him down and moved his family just outside of the very town that wants him dead. And when you realise that, it definitely makes him seem quite stupid. Why would you think that about 5 miles away from Blackwater was a safe place to hide? Come on, mate. Number 3, Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, Raiden. Out of everyone on this list, Raiden might be the one to have changed the most, at least when it comes to his physical aspects. Raiden's introduction to the franchise was immediately met with fan backlash. Metal Gear Solid 2 was advertised as another Pliskin Solid Snake adventure, but instead, players took control of Snake's replacement, Raiden. This pulling of the rug from under players did not go down too well, especially with Raiden's whinier attitude towards his work. And because of Raiden, Metal Gear Solid 2 is actually regarded as one of the worst titles in the entire series, which is a shame because from a gameplay perspective, it's one of the best. So in response, series creator Hideo Kojima did what Kojima does best and reintroduced the character in Metal Gear Solid 4 as a badass ninja cyborg akin to the fan favourite Grey Fox. Raiden went from being a second-rate character to having his own spin-offs in no time thanks to this, and goddamn was he much cooler as a result. Number 2, Halo 4 Master Chief. So Master Chief, in the same respect as Doomguy, was initially presented as a pure unstoppable force. Known only as John 117, the Chief was intentionally left as a blank slate. And indeed, over the course of the entire original trilogy, all of Master Chief's voice lines amounted to just around 5 minutes, and usually these were just action hero one-liners. But after the third installment, Bungie sold the rights of the Halo franchise to Microsoft, and not long after that, developers 343 started their own trilogy of Halo games, and part of their vision was to humanize John and build on the man behind the mask. Now this approach didn't exactly go too smoothly with the existing audience who were used to Chief as being this unkillable suit of armor. Rather than being just a powerful husk sent out to defeat an alien menace, 343's Chief is on a personal journey which often makes him show vulnerability either emotionally or physically. Arguably, it's much better for the character overall to have weaknesses like this, but sometimes we just like to look back at the days of yore and think, oh yes, killing stuff, nice. And number 1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Soap MacTavish. So Soap is now one of Call of Duty's most recognizable and renowned characters, and is actually a prime example of a player character becoming so powerful that they have to become an NPC in the next game. Seriously, they were that good. First introduced as being handpicked for the SAS, Soap does not get a whole lot of backstory or character development in Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Instead, he's there for the audience to project themselves onto as they embark on fast and furious levels of high-octane fun. But by the time Modern Warfare 2 comes around, Soap is one of the top options operatives of Task Force 141, where he and his mustachioed mentor Price indoctrinate the latest recruit. Soap is given a no-nonsense GSD personality this time around, making going back and playing COD 4 that much more awesome. His presence throughout the second game turned him from being a generic soldier into a gaming icon, and that is bloody brilliant. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video game sequels that changed the way that you view characters. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. That's my personal gaming channel where I stream every single Wednesday and Sunday, and it'd be great to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. We detailed today a lot about looking at characters in different ways, and I think that we could all take something from this and apply it to our own personal lives. Sometimes we can view ourselves as being the bad guy, the villains of our story, but you know what, my friends? Every single person makes mistakes in their lives, and you just need to forgive yourself for mistakes that you've made in the past. You're not a bad person. You deserve love, happiness, and success, and I want you to view yourself as being the utter big ledge that I know you are. Now go out there and absolutely smash it, okay? As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.